Gene Sharp, From Dictatorship to Democracy, a Conceptual Framework for Liberation. Embark on a journey with us through the complexities and challenges of dismantling dictatorships and replacing them with well-functioning democracies. Gene Sharp's From Dictatorship to Democracy explores the tools and tactics political activists can use to overthrow oppressive regimes without resorting to violence. The book examines how nonviolent efforts have led to successful democratic transitions, as well as the obstacles resistance movements might face along the way. Dive into the summary to uncover how defiance can challenge political structures, the importance of strategic planning, and the role foreign states might play in such transformational movements. Learn why nonviolent resistance has a lasting impact on individuals and societies, shedding light on how people could increase their political power.
Overthrowing Dictatorships: How Nonviolent Resistance Brings Positive Change. Dictatorships come in different forms, but they all have one thing in common: the oppression of their citizens. However, citizens can challenge and dismantle dictatorships through nonviolent means. Many countries have already achieved democracy through nonviolent resistance, leading to political empowerment. Yet, democracy carries its risks, such as regressing into a dictatorship. The remnants of dictatorships affect institutions and create suspicions that undermine the people's ability to work together. While violence is not an effective means to challenge dictatorships, nonviolent resistance proves to be a potent tool for positive change. Dictatorships require the cooperation of the citizens they rule to maintain their power. Through nonviolent means, oppressive governments are weakened, and democracy is empowered. Confronting Dictators. Oppressed people often accept their situation or negotiate with tyrants, risking to preserve their powers. Negotiations fail on larger issues like religious or social freedom, as the dictator's goal is to preserve control. However, the more brutally a dictatorship behaves, the weaker it becomes. Building an open society requires organization, skill, planning, and effective use of democratic power. Dictators derive power through authority, cooperation, knowledge, ideology, punishment, and control over resources and infrastructure which require public acquiescence. Constantly dominating a population requires an extraordinary expenditure of supremacy, so constraining the sources of that might over time reduces a dictatorship's strength and can lead to its demise. Resistance, commonly from non-governmental groups, can be non-violent and provide the mass of people needed to defy a dictator, forming a base for a liberation struggle. To overcome dictators, a resistance group must rely on self-reliance, internal strengthening, and organized democratic power. Nonviolent opposition to dictatorships. Dictatorships appear to have a strong hold on power, but are in fact susceptible to changes due to rigidity, bureaucracy, and various other limitations. To oppose such oppressive regimes, political defiance is a recognized and powerful form of nonviolent resistance. This resistance comes in three forms: protest and persuasion, non-cooperation, and nonviolent intervention. The key is to remain disciplined, fearless, and nonviolent. Consistent, widespread application of these tactics can shift the power balance, causing mutinies among the dictator's military that erode the dictatorship's power. Nonviolent resistance produces change in four ways: conversion, accommodation, nonviolent coercion, and disintegration. Opponents can use at least 200 specific forms of defiant tactics that are psychological, social, economic, or political. Disillusioning the dictator's followers and empowering democratic forces is essential to bringing about change. Strategies for successful political defiance. Conquering dictatorships through comprehensive planning and outside support. Overthrowing dictatorships has always been a daunting task, and unplanned uprisings have never been enough. For democratic forces to succeed, they must conduct realistic assessments of their strengths and that of the dictatorship, as well as comprehensive planning and strategic analyses to save lives and resources. Failure to strategize may lead to a waning morale among activists and the prolonged domination of the dictatorship. Campaign leaders must consider 4 key components when constructing a strategy: grand strategy, that outlines the campaign's objectives; strategy, that determines the best ways to achieve these objectives; tactics, that help counter the opponent's actions; and method, that involves the specific means of action. With an overarching grand strategy in place, activists can allocate their resources appropriately and determine the best techniques of action. While overthrowing dictators solely falls to the indigenous people, external support from foreign countries is necessary for creating or supporting internal resistance movements, strengthening the oppressed population, and preparing a national liberation strategy. To achieve this support, the democratic movement must inform external audiences about the dictatorship's oppression and may organize boycotts or enforce embargoes. The challenge in planning and executing political defiance campaigns lies in the absence of a blueprint to follow. However, this makes it imperative for strategic planners to understand the principles of nonviolent struggle, including using selective resistance and specific tactics as political weapons. Campaign leaders must publicly communicate their grand strategy to boost supporters' morale, inform the dictator of the movement's intentions, and create dissent among the dictator's followers. Ultimately, conquering dictatorships requires comprehensive planning, strategic analyses, and outside support. Campaign leaders should prepare for a long-term battle, and tactics must change as the situation evolves. But with the right strategies in place, a successful political defiance campaign is within reach. Starting small for big change. Oppressed populations should initiate resistance by choosing modest goals, like demanding safer drinking water, to show that they have power. Democratic organizers must communicate with law enforcement to avoid causing harm and recruit sympathetic officers to weaken the dictatorship from within. The path to democracy. A dictatorship loses power when its resources become scarce, and the resulting democratic space fills the power vacuum. However, as a country transitions to a democratic government, leaders must assess what parts of the old regime should remain in power and decide if members of the dictatorship should be punished. The transition should not be assumed to lead to a democratic society automatically. It takes years to develop a constitution, open institutions, and a stable economy. Therefore, the nation faces the danger of new tyrants emerging, as seen in the history of revolutionary France, Russia, Iran, and Burma. Nonviolent struggle principles allow individuals and societies to learn how to remove tyrants and become politically powerful. It strengthens them to regain or expand their own freedoms in the future.
In conclusion, From Dictatorship to Democracy, by Gene Sharp provides compelling insights into how nonviolent resistance can topple repressive regimes and build a path towards functional democracies. The key is to develop well-planned strategies and maintain a disciplined approach when employing tactics such as protests, non-cooperation, and nonviolent intervention. Activists are advised to strengthen their organizational structures, communicate effectively with the populace, and consider factors like military dynamics and international influence to increase their chances of success. While no definitive blueprint exists for achieving democratic freedom, Sharp's guidance offers an invaluable foundation for anyone looking to foster change within oppressive governments, and ultimately empowering the oppressed.